Hey guys, today we're working on a 2002 BMW 325i, and we're going to be replacing these old leaking heater pipes. You can see they broke off and they were causing a leak. So, let's get started. Alright, first thing we're going to do is remove these two pins here. You have to pull up on the center section, and then the clip comes out. That frees up this section. I have mine taped up here, but you can pull this off. And then there's 5 or 6 clips on the air cleaner that you'll have to undo. And then loosen this hose clamp on the intake boot. And then unplug your sensor here. And the top of the air cleaner can come off. And there's 2 10mm bolts right here that to take out. And the bottom of the air cleaner can come off. Before we do anything else there, you can come up here. There's 3 sprung clips that you just turn counterclockwise, and then that allows you to pull the filter out from underneath here. And then you'll lift this cover up, and there are 5 bolts under here. They're a T30 bolt. I said 5. There are 4 bolts under there. They're T30 Torx. You can undo those. And then this harness comes across here. It's got clips on it. Both mine broke already, but you got to pull that up and off of it. And then this whole assembly can actually come out. Gives you a lot more space. So then once that's out, there's 2 10mm bolts on top of this cover. And this cover comes off. And then there's 2 10mm nuts on top of this cover. We're going to take it off as well. You may not have to do this, but it helped me a little bit. And it's just 2 bolts, or 2 nuts. So then take your oil cap off, pull the cover off, pull the cap back on. Alright, next thing we're going to do is take off this terminal over here. It's a 16mm. Then you can go ahead and unclip all of these. Mine's got a zip tie on it. On this one end. These are just some simple clips here, and then it breaks into 2 pieces. There you go. And pull your positive cable all the way out and over there. Next thing we're going to do is come over here to our brake booster and unplug the vacuum line. It should just pull right out. Make sure not to hit this brake fluid switch, and then pull it out of the grommet right there. Get it up out of the way. And then there's a clip here and a clip on the firewall. The clip's right here. Mine's, of course, a zip tie again. Careful, because you can drop these clips. But they are also a quarter turn, and then you gotta pull them out. So once you get those 2 clips out, and these wires kind of up out of your way, you should be able to get this shroud piece out. Might be a little bit of a struggle. All right, next thing we can go ahead and do is take off connection right here. You're supposed to be able to squeeze the top and the bottom, and then the hose should come off. There we go. And then there's a clip back behind here. And you depress the wire, and then it should come out. Pressing the wire opens up the clip. There we go. Come back over onto this side. Pull these vacuum lines out. That. And then there's another hose clamp. We're going to do this first one, and then this boot should be able to come off. Off like that. Next, we're going to loosen up the dipstick. Being able to pull it this way out of the way is going to really help. That should be a 12 millimeter. That dipstick runs down. That's the bolt right there. Next, there's two bolts for the power steering reservoir. One here, one on the other side. I'm going to remove those as well. And then pull the power steering reservoir over here. Again, just to kind of give us some more space. Okay, next thing we're going to do, unplug this connector here. It's got one of those clips on the back side of it. You can stick your finger in, press the clip, like we did on the other one. And then once that's out of the way, there's a T40 screw here and a T40 screw right here. All right, and then this should be able to come right out. The next thing we're going to do is detach the lower intake boot. So it's got two of those clamps you have to undo. One of them's right here. The other hose clamp you can just barely see back there. And actually what's going to help you get to it is removing this bracket here. There's going to be a T30 screw in it. Screw. And then this we'll be able to kind of pull out of the way. Oh, son of a... Well, don't do what I just did and rip that upper one off. So with the lower boot out of the way, you can then go ahead. There's a nut right here that you're going to want to take off. And then there's also that bolt down there, and then another nut. And then this electronics bracket should be able to come out or move. It won't come out. You got those two. And then there's one more that is down here. Let's see if I can get it on camera. So it's that nut right there. Later you'll have to pull out that 10 millimeter bolt. There's 4 bolts holding the throttle body in. That's coming next. But that nut right there is what's going to secure the rest of this bracket. Dang, never find that again. So then there's a plug under here. There you go. That'll come out, and then there's also going to be a plug on the throttle body. Yep, I can access it. There's a plastic push tab on that plug. Push that in and pull out, and it should come out. So then once everything is unplugged from the throttle body, you can start taking out those 4 bolts. All right, with those out, you should be able to pull this electronics bracket out of the way. And get your throttle body out. My mic ran out of battery for this next section, but then there's this connector right here. It's got like a rubber mount on it that slides onto a section of the intake. That's that slot right there. You can just pull that one right off. Then there's these connectors on top of the intake. You can either pull the connectors out of the metal clips, or you can actually remove the metal clips, which is what I did because I didn't want the metal clips in the way. You can just use the pliers and pull those out. Then there's a plastic nut over here that holds a bracket around the positive cable. You take that nut off and then that'll loosen up the positive cable so you can move it later. And then you can stick your hand back here and get to the water temp sensor. It's a little bit difficult, but you can find it. And then on this side, there's a vacuum hose you're going to want to disconnect off this valve. So you take the hose off right here, and then you can pull up all the connectors right here, and that should free up the hose underneath them. You can kind of pull it up and all the way around the engine to the driver's side. Just like this, which allows you to pull the intake off later. So next we're ready to do the intake. There's a nut that holds a bracket on down there. There's a better view of it. I believe it's a 16 mil. You got to take that one off. And then after you get that nut off, there's going to be 11 millimeter nuts on the top of the intake. I use a long extension and a U-joint on my socket set and a magnet to grab the nuts. Otherwise, you may drop them and lose them forever. So then for this last one, you're going to want a wobble socket or a U-joint. And you'll have to kind of fish it down in there. You got to be extra careful on this one not to lose it. So then there's one more hose underneath here. It's going to be a clip similar to this one over here, but a lot smaller. Actually, it's kind of like the one plugged in right here. And I think we need to get it unplugged to be able to move the manifold the way we want it to. But again, it's you kind of squeeze the outside and then pull down. Be careful not to break anything. Okay. Now the idea is to be able to pull the intake out and then pull it back this way, just so it's out of the way enough that we can get to those heater pipes. See, I'm feeding the positive cable through. Gives me some slack. And then I can just kind of pull this up out of the way. And then I have a daisy chain of zip ties over here that I'm going to use and zip tie this thing up so it can't go anywhere while I'm working on it. There you go. And with that out of the way, you want to put paper towels in each intake runner, block them, make sure nothing gets down there, and that gives you what should be enough access to get to everything. All right, now that we've got the intake out of the way, we can start removing these heater pipes. So first you want to loosen this banjo bolt and the one down here. They're a 19 mil, and that allows you to pull this side of the hose out of the way, so you can pull these out. And then this bolt or nut right here is 10 mil. Then for the upper pipe, there's a bolt right here. It'll be a 13 mil. I'm just gonna break that free. And then there's one right here for that lower pipe. It's got a turn in it. Break that one free. And then there's one more for the lower pipe. And it's going to kind of be hidden behind this bracket. So this pipe is in there like that. That's the one that goes to the engine block. And then there's one right here. You have to get around it to get to that bolt. So getting those out should allow us to then kind of wiggle these free. All right, so this top one has to come out first, and it pulls out sideways, and the bottom one pulls out backwards. All right, got that bottom one out. And you got to disconnect those quick connects on the hoses on the back end. But then you pretty much want to clean up the hole that they go into in the engine. So I'll show you that in a second. So that's one hole where one of those pipes goes. There's that other one. I'm going to make sure that's nice and clean too. So I'm going to try and get in there with maybe some fine grit sandpaper. Make sure those are nice and smooth and cleaned up. And hopefully that'll fix any additional leaks. Okay, so I got the new pipes in, and then I pressure tested it up to 9 psi. Basically, you get your pressure tester, and this screws on to your coolant cap, and then you pump it up. I don't know what psi it's supposed to hold to, but I figured 9 was good enough. So I think that means we are good to start putting everything back together. Now, the biggest thing here is remembering to reconnect everything and tighten everything that you took apart. So I'm going to video me doing it, and then hopefully you can use that as kind of a checklist of things to go through. And when I forget something and post this video, then someone can comment that I forgot something, and then I can go read the comments to figure out why my car won't run anymore. So that being said, first thing I'm going to do is tighten down this oil line. You want to be careful when doing this because you don't want to break a banjo bolt, but you do want to get it tight enough that it compresses that copper washer. And then you're going to want to push it as far toward the engine as possible, because this is going to need space in there, and then some other stuff down here needs space. So you really want it up against the heater pipes you just installed as tightly as possible. All right, and then one thing I noticed was my cam position sensor, the wires were deteriorated. I guess being right here next to the heat, the plastic on them just came right off. So I had to take the cam position sensor out and then re-tape up all those wires individually. And then I added some extra shrouding around it because I'm not about to drop over $100 on a sensor if it seems to be working and just needs some tape. So I had to do that. Just take a peek at that while you have it all out. You've got to take this Vanna solenoid out, and then you can get the cam sensor behind it. Okay, so the bolts are in for the heater pipe. The quick connects are good. Now let's go ahead. Theoretically, if you have this off, you want to at least clean the gasket, if not get new gaskets, and then clean the surfaces on the head. Now we can go ahead and take all these paper towels out. I already did this, but you can come in and like vacuum up all the crud or anything that's in here. And then you saw I replaced the coolant temp sensor because it's easy to get to right now. So when this goes back in, this bracket is going to have to go, let's see if I can use this. Right behind that cable. So this is our positive cable. It's kind of hiding the stud that this bracket needs to go on. So the bracket needs to go on the inside of that cable, at least on my car. I don't know, it may be different on everybody else's, but then you're gonna wanna get that through here. I think the easiest way to do it is to kind of start on all of these bolts, get it at least started there, and then stick your hand under this way and grab this and make sure it goes over that stud, and then everything should seat pretty well. Make sure you don't have anything lying along here, no wires or anything that you could clamp. And then take care for this thing. I had to replace mine because I broke it, but with the replacement, it came straight right here, and I actually had to heat this up and bend it. So just keep an eye for that to make sure it actually fits properly and you don't break it when you're putting it back. Go ahead and give this a snip here. You can pull your power cable back through a little bit more. You'll have to pardon my head if I get in the way. It's not really the easiest thing to do. So I'm gonna pick it up and just try and keep an eye. Make sure you don't catch any electronics or anything on this side. Like I said, I think I'm gonna try to start. Ooh, I think I'm catching on something. So see, this guy's got to come up through that area. And okay, I got my bracket in a good spot underneath here. Okay, I think it is the power cable. I think it was kind of caught up underneath there. Okay, so I think I got it started, but you'll notice it's not going to go down all the way till you bring your hand under here, and you're going to have to gently guide this bracket underneath here back over onto the stud. So you kind of just have to do it blindly. Right now that bracket is sitting on top of the stud, so I have to grab it, pull it out this way, and then it slips over, and you just saw it all slide into place like that. So should be good there. Now before I start bolting everything up, I'm going to plug in as much as possible right now. This one you don't want to plug in because it's in the way of a nut right there. This guy will just set there right now just in case. But the coolant temp back here you can plug in. When you plug it in, this wire piece is going to face inward. So you kind of have to feel around back here. I didn't mean in, I meant down. The wire piece faces down. Okay, so I got mine in there. And then we have all these wires headed back this way. While you've got the intake up, I forgot to mention this. This has some rubber line and there's an extra valve, like a one-way valve, tucked under the intake on the back side. I replaced that because it's impossible to get to, and when you pull everything out, you're really likely to break some of that stuff and cause a vacuum leak. So just go ahead and get a little bit of vacuum line and replace that if you can. Really, if you're gonna have to take the intake manifold off, it's worth doing all the super simple cheap fixes like a new temp sensor or vacuum lines. You can also do a starter while you're there and all that other stuff, but I wasn't gonna do that. And then while we're working on this side, I don't even know if y'all can, okay, y'all can. While we're working on this side, come tuck your brackets back in to the clamps here. I guess these are connectors for the O2 sensor. I don't know, I usually work on 70s Fords. So, I don't really know what I'm talking about. Keep that out of the way for now. This piece right here, we can slide back on to that bracket there. It just slides straight on. Now you'll remember there's a hose we had to disconnect from under here that connects up, kind of this near the same place this is. So you want to find that hose, make sure it's connected. There it goes. Okay, it's good to go. This guy actually goes, okay, this is my cam sensor, intake cam sensor. It can get plugged in because it plugs into the electronics control module or electronics box over here. I don't think it's a control module. I'm just tired and talking and saying words. And when plugging into these plugs with that, you know, wire clip, you can kind of just press on the wire clip and then slide in. Goes in pretty easily. Feeling pretty good up here. So now we're gonna start working on all of these nuts that go in. So when I do these, I like to get my socket, put the nut in there, and then use some painter's tape because it'll just rip out of the way, but it holds it on while you just get it started. So see, I can easily get it started in there and then pulls right out. Good to go. You can even just put it over the top like that, fold it down, and then sneak it in here. All right, I have no idea if there's a torque sequence or a spec you're supposed to go with. Just get them on there. I did middle out if you want to figure out the torque sequence, I'm sure there's a forum post somewhere. So now we're going to do this 16 mil nut. Okay. Intake is back on. Put our throttle body back on. This one's kind of tricky. Let's see if I can get you on a better position. So with the throttle body, I'm going to try and pull all this up out of the way as much as possible. And then feed it in. Something like that. And then I like to start with this top left bolt. And then you're going to want probably a little extension in your 10 mil ready, because I kind of get it lined up properly. And then hold it there with the bolt in it, and then stick your 10 mil in and hope you actually got it lined up correctly, and hand tighten that 10 mil. Sweet, okay, got it lined up. And then slowly work your way around it. Next thing I think we'll go ahead and do is bolt this bracket back up. You got the one nut right here. Get that started. You got this bolt over here, and then you've got one more nut down on this corner here. Okay. So we got that plug in, the other throttle body plug in. We still have these hoses right here. Those can be attached with that T30 Torx, but I'm not going to do that yet because we are probably going to do the lower intake boot first. All right, I'm going to do this intake boot. This is the lower one. I'm not leaving it like that, obviously. I just kind of need this up and running so that I can do a test drive and make sure it's good to go. Then I'll go pick one of these up. So, try and slide them both on at the same time here. Without ripping my delicate blue tape. Okay, got that on. So then I think the next thing we'll go ahead and do is this T30 Torx with this vacuum hose bracket. Go there. Next will be whatever this thing is here. That's good to go. You can take this plug here, that plugged in. So then at this point, I think it's just the mass airflow sensor and this vacuum line that still needs to be plugged in. Oh, and these ones here, that's right. We come over here. That guy plugged in. And this guy here. Yep. That plugged in. And then these clips should just be able to clip right back in. Okay. I'm going to do power steering again. Take our positive cable. Go ahead and reinstall it. You can go ahead and get this divider panel back in. And these like wedges have to mate up down in here. Kind of got to pull the vacuum hose out of the way. So the electrical line, get this guy down in there. There we go. And I'll zip tie this side again. That should be good to go. And we've got to do this intake boot. And plug these vacuum lines back into here. Like next is our air box. When you install this mass airflow sensor cable will run underneath and up and around. So make sure it's out of the way. And this kind of slides in like you saw me do. I'm going to leave it loose till we get the clips in all the way around. And this guy kind of lines up there, but then you have to feed the mass airflow sensor into this duct here. And then you can get the lid to sit down. That guy plugged in. And I think that's all I'm going to do for right now. We're going to give it a startup. Alright, I got the heater turned on, allow water to come through the whole system. I'm going to go ahead and back it out into the driveway so I can see if there's any water dripping out from underneath. Definitely some water dripping. Hopeful that's not an active leak and maybe that's just extra water. Doesn't seem like it though. Alright, so that leak was this extra hose. These two are the heater, the pipes that we replaced that were definitely broken. And then I guess when this hose detached from this one, it was just done. I don't know, but it leaked and I had to get a new one of these as well. That goes from obviously that end of the heater pipe to the expansion tank at the radiator. So this joint was leaking profusely, and then new hose fixed that. So now that that is done, we can actually finally go ahead and finish putting all this back together. So actually, first thing I'm going to do is replace that boot I had to tape up, and then I'll cut this back in once we're done with that and show you how to put everything back together. All right, so I went ahead and put the two clips in for the intake. That's good to go. Next thing we're going to do is reattach this bracket over here for that positive cable. We're going to go ahead and put these two cables back into the loom. something like that, where this positive cable comes out right there, and then maybe it goes a little more in that direction, but it's good enough for now. All right, and there you go. I think that completes the job. So I will keep driving it. Hopefully it doesn't keep leaking, and we'll be good to go. Go ahead and comment if I left anything out, and thank you for watching.